Good morning, traders and investors around the world, and welcome to Tuesday's edition of premarketinfo.com, where we prepare an hour of the day, the first hour. Well, Dennis, we have a nice 9-point range in the S&Ps here, opening up right at the close and selling off.
Yeah, Joel. Lots of earnings today. We had a lot of earnings reports last night. Some major ones here this morning. So even a couple in the Big Ten there. So at least one in the Big Ten. So it's going to be an interesting day here. Should see some volatility, Joel.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice for a change. Okay, recapping the overnight activity, we have a Globex high of 1311.50. That also is the daily pivot. That's also a tick away from Friday's high. A couple ticks away from the close, and interestingly, the last three closes have been between 1310.50 and 1311. So, if in fact we do get up to that 1311, folks, at that level again, that's going to be major resistance. Broke through our double bottom last night at 1304.75 to get down to 1302.50. If that holds as the high of the day, we have an upside target of 1317 and a quarter. The way things stand right now, Dennis, we need to get back above this 1307 level, which we haven't seen since about 4 o'clock this morning, in order to make a run at the Globex high. Moving on to the Big Ten, ExxonMobil creep higher yesterday, getting up close to that 88 number. We were looking for 88.23, which was the 52-week high. Couldn't quite get there, sold off. And now we're opening up into Monday's low here, Dennis. Are you going to scoop it up for a bounce here, or you think we're going to hit perhaps Thursday's low at 85.77?
Not too much of a run here for me, Joel. Really to play from the long side, maybe for a short-term scalp. I'm always scalping a little bit too, but as a swing trade here, I think it's run too far. Interesting that we topped out at 87.94 yesterday too, because we have some size in the 88 area, Joel. So it looks like those high-frequency traders are putting a lid on it in the 87.90s. So until it can give above 88, expect those high-frequency traders to still give you that initial resistance in the 87.90s.
Okay, Apple Computer kind of shrugged off Friday's activity, bounced up, couldn't quite get to that all-time high, made a high at 428.45 with the close at 427.41. I expect that whole area to be resistance if we do get a pop in this thing. Coming back on the downside, Dennis, I mean, I hate to say I don't see anything till 422.30, which was yesterday. I don't see anything until 422.30.
Yeah, it had a heck of a run here, Joel, bouncing back up, and 431.36 is the number that I'm looking at, obviously the 52-week high on the upside. Keep in mind the stock reports earnings after the bell today. Sometimes you'll see a little run up. I think that's maybe why we ran up $7 yesterday. People anticipating maybe the numbers are going to be good. But sometimes, when stocks have had, good runs, this thing, was 380 here just over a month ago, 427's had a heck of a run already. So, you never know. If they don't beat the number, handily, this stock could end up selling off. 422.30 from an intraday perspective for trading today sounds like a pretty good number there, Joel.
Okay, IBM following through on that earnings momentum, making a high fresh above that 190 level, 190.52, before settling back at 189.98. They were trading over a buck from that level, so look for resistance if you get anywhere near that close at 189.98. Coming back on the downside, as I said yesterday, there's a lot of air underneath this stock. Well, we have a number for you, folks. 187.67. That was yesterday's low. If you're initiating any shorts this morning, look for a slight bounce in that area. Below that, you have Friday's low, which is a fresh $3 below that at 184.75.
It's funny how earnings can really turn a stock around. This was a stock for the last month that couldn't get any rally going. Comes out with earnings, rallies $8, and now it's got some momentum, getting another $1.46 rally yesterday. This momentum, you've got to think, eventually could come to a halt. I'm looking at that 194.90 area. So for you swing traders out there, this 190 provides a little initial resistance. We got to 190.50 yesterday, but we start to get above that 190.50 area. Stock could still move up into that 194.90 52-week high, but there would be major resistance up there.
How about I take 179, you take 199.
Yeah. You got me thinking, but no, because it's got to make a new high. I don't want to buy it through. I don't want to bank on it heading out through that high. I think there's major reasons. I think it could get to that 194.90 and retest the old 52-week high, but I'm not sure if it's got enough momentum to cut through it or not. So I'm holding off on your bets. You always try to sucker me, Joel.
Okay, moving on to Chevron Corporation. Very unusual formation here. For $107 stock, and I think I talked about this. Five closes within 30 cents. 106.73 and 107.01, with 107.01 being yesterday's close. So I'm using that. I'll even come down off that three-star number, which was Monday's high at 107.50. I think 107 is going to be the number here in Chevron for the next few days. We can't get above that level. I look for us to go back and test those lows when they announced that they were going to be a little shy on the earnings. Coming back on the downside, Dennis, we're already through Monday's low. We're going to open up into Friday's low at 106 and a quarter. I'd look for a slight bounce there, but below that, we could easily see 105.20.
Stock has been very quiet, Joel. I think eventually it's gearing up to make a move one way or another. Hard to say which way. I tend to think it might start to rally and get back up into that 110 area, but it's hard to say. You got to really go with the break. I think we were saying that yesterday too. This stock breaks up and starts trading 108. I think it's going to 110. This stock breaks down, starts getting under that 106, 105 area, then it starts to open up, to the downside. So I'd go with whichever way this thing breaks. It may take a couple days though.
Okay, Mr. Softy made a run at the $30 level yesterday, getting to 29.95 before peeling back, settling at 29.73. You also have or Friday's close at 29.71. So we'll call that our first good area of resistance. If you guys are looking to try and pick a top here, Mr. Softy, if you are, would definitely be risking up to that 29.95 level. Which was Monday's high, but I don't anticipate that stock getting there today. Coming back on the downside, Monday's low, 29.35, is definitely within range, and below that, you have a nice drop down to Friday's low, 35.
Yeah, 29.95 is huge on this thing, Joe. We knew there was going to be some resistance up in that 30 area. The high-frequency traders anticipated it as well because they're selling in the 29.90s. Gets back up into those 29.90s. I think you need to look at that area. If you're long, that might be an area you want to get out of your longs. If it cuts through 30, then all bets are off. But until it can break through 30, I don't want to be long this stock.
Okay, GE. It struggled again, Dennis. We've been talking about getting three closes over 19, and on two occasions we've had two closes over 19, but can't get Thursday, Friday, and Monday's high all up from 19.19 up to 19 and a quarter. That is going to be some major resistance if, in fact, we can get back over that $19 level. We are opening below yesterday's low, so let's use that 1890 to 1894, the low and the close, as resistance. Probably 19 area. Major support, Dennis, at the weekly low, 1856. So could be in for an old 1850 to 19 range in GE today.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Actually, it's not that weak today, Joel. Considering the market's down 7 points, it's only down 7 cents GE, so it's holding up not bad in the pre-market. If for whatever reason the stock goes into rally mode, there is now major resistance up here in this 1920 area. We did talk about that yesterday. 1925 seems to be putting a lid on it. Those high-frequency guys are selling the 1920 to 1924 area, so expect that to continue until we can start getting above that 1930 area, Joel. So I'm a seller up here if we rally up about into the 1920 area, and if we start to break down from here, you're right, we could maybe see 1850, but I don't know. This has been really tight range here too, so I wouldn't bank on a huge range on this.
Yeah, I mean, this stock was also relatively weak on the close yesterday, settling near the low of the day as opposed to the S&Ps who were, 6 points off its low of the day. Moving on to Procter Gamble, Dennis, I know you got caught a little happy on the buy side there. I tried to warn you off the open that even though it did get another downgrade, was opening lower, it was not opening up into any support. And consequently, it opened up at its high of the day. Sold off pretty good, Dennis. $65 close with a 64.78 low. We're currently trading right at that level. If this 64.78 does not hold, Dennis, we're looking for a ride down here at least to the $64 level. 63.94 was the low back on December 12th. This stock, after just holding this tight range up here, 66, 67, looks to be breaking down.
It really does look to be breaking down, Joel, and it was a good call on your part there yesterday. I started picking bottoms here around $65 is when I initially entered the position. I thought it might get a bounce off that. It actually did. I got up 20 or 30 cents in the trade, and I was like, well, this might come back because I remember that day before that a lot of it got almost the whole entire sell-off back, and I was like, well, I think it could move higher. And then it started to move down on me, and I actually think I ended up just losing a little bit on the trade. So it sucks when you make a 20, 30 cent trade turn into a loser. So I'm still learning. I've always been pretty good at entering positions, never great at exiting them. Somehow it's a scalper in me that always gets out. And for this reason here, I was trying to hold on. I was like, well, I'm not going to scalp for a quick 20 cents here. I'm going to go for 40 or 50 cents. I think I got greedy and I gave the gain back. So still learning after 12 years of prop trading, but it is what it is. 65 here I think might give you some resistance here now, just being the close yesterday, and that looks like if it starts to break down below this low of yesterday, 64.77, which it is right now, then you could think about that 64 number on this. It could be a 2-day sell-off coming up maybe.
Okay, AT&T trading pretty down here substantially in the pre-market. Dennis, a 30-cent move for that is bigger than the range it had yesterday. Sniff Friday's high, got above it, 30.56. We were talking about that 30.50 level. People looking to unload. Pull back closed at 30.40. I expect to get a bounce up to Monday's low, this 30.26 area. I'd call that resistance now since we're trading below that level. I just have 30 on the lower end of my numbers, but they're minor numbers there, Dennis. You got anything under there under $30 for me in AT&T?
I don't see that much, to be honest with you, Joel, and it is a pretty good down move. It's trading down on the Verizon earnings. Verizon
Correct.
is actually trading down here 80 cents right now, so AT&T getting a pretty strong sympathy move with that being down 30 cents. That is a big move for AT&T. If the stock goes into rally mode, I think you got to be a seller of the rallies. Not a bad idea to start selling, maybe at that 30.26 area low from yesterday, gets back up to that settlement area 30.40 or even into the 30.50 area. I think I'd be a major seller in that area now.
That ain't happening.
Probably not, but you always but this is the thing with trading. You always say, okay, that ain't happening. But if it does happen, you've got to be prepared. It's all about where, preparation meets opportunity. That's what they say luck is. So I'm always prepared, even though I think it might not happen, if it does happen, then you've got to be prepared to make that trade. And I think if I was to get up into that area, and that's why we're trying to give you, support resistance numbers. Sometimes when we give you these numbers, we're not necessarily saying it's going there, but if it is to go to that area, the stock might react in a certain way. And if it's to react and get up to this 30.40, 30.50 area, I think that's a good area to try a short.
Okay, J&J. I know they released earnings. A wild ride. I'll just give you the technicals on this, and then I'll let Dennis give you the skinny on the earnings. You talk about closes in an area. 9 closes between 65 and 65.29 here above earnings. So this 65 is going to be a major swing number. I see after the earnings came out, it blasted down and hit under 63.80 here. Actually, it got to 63.63. That was quite a move that then bounced right back up. So I don't know who was doing that kind of trading. We're back right up at this 65 level. Dennis, I imagine you're going to see major sellers up here from 65 all the way up to yesterday's high at 65.33. Coming back on the downside, 64.54 is going to be your solid number on the downside. That was Friday's low. Look for that to test early in the session. And below that, could easily see 64 or the panic earnings low at 63.63.
I think I agree with you, Joel. I think if this thing gets anywhere in the 65s, people are looking to sell it now, especially if they're watching the pre-market action as it traded down on that earnings report. Sometimes the initial move, you'll see a bounce, and then you'll see it eventually start to fade, to pull back to where the initial move was. So that's what we've seen. We haven't really seen it pull back here yet. It's trading down only 10 cents right now at 64.90. If this thing gets into the 65.30 area, I'd be a seller for sure. And even if you get higher than that, like we talked about that 66 number for area, for forever here. So for whatever reason, if this really started to rally, I think you just keep continuing to find sellers in the high 65s. So even if you're selling at 65.30, I got to risk 50 or 60 cents. And think about Procter & Gamble. You know, some of these defensive names have been breaking down. So here's a stock, you know, it's held up, it has had its earnings report. What's to get excited about the stock now? They've already reported, they beat by a couple cents, whoop-de-doo-dah day. You know, if the interest starts to move back into some of the, you know, some of the higher beta stocks and the risk-on trade, then this risk-off trade comes on, and Johnson & Johnson could see a move similar maybe to Procter & Gamble and start to sell off here.
Yeah, and Procter & Gamble, J&J, all these stocks kind of stalled out, and the market kept on going, but these things just kind of rallied before and then held their ground. Moving to our last stock, Pfizer. We've been talking about this $22 level forever, and their brother got above there a couple times in the last few weeks or so, but never closed above there. Never closed above that $22 level. So that's just looming much larger now than we had discussed before. 21.60 is where it's trading in the pre-market. Last Thursday's low, 21.59. So opening in support. But if it can't hold there, Dennis, looks like we might have a slow migration down to that $21 level. Coming back on the upside, I'm sure you'll meet some resistance at Monday's close, which was 21.71.
This stock chart looks broken to me. I think this 22, even though we got above it a couple of times there, that seems to be a major resistance point. I'm a seller if this thing gets up into the 21.90s at all. I think, you know, that's a good area to lean on, at least right now. And I think the stock maybe eventually does start to break down.
Okay, folks, that's a wrap of the Big Ten. We're just meandering here around the previous 2 days' lows, trying to muster a bounce up to test that Globex high. We're going to take a quick break, get our market movers up there, and we'll be right back.